Okay, it appears that YouTube is live. You're ready to go.
All right. Good morning. This is Chair James McCulley. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the Board of Appeals April 2021 meeting being held virtually using the Zoom platform. Let's review the aloha etiquette. So one person will speak at a time. No side conversations, please. Mute your device unless you're speaking to improve the audio for all of us. Raise your hand and wait for recognition by the chair or somebody paying attention around me. And then you can begin speaking. Prior to speaking, especially the first time, please state your name and speak slowly and clearly as close to your mic as is practical. Limit your distractions. That's your children, your mobile phones, your dogs, your neighbors with a chainsaw. And we'll take a break each hour approximately, or when somebody raises their hand and says, no mas. All right, I'll introduce the members. When I call your name, would you raise your hand and speak carefully into your mic and tell us good morning? Stacy Aguiar. I don't hear anything, Stacy. Rob, is Stacy alive with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
I had to find the unmute button.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Good morning.
Richard Henderson.
I'm here. Good to see you this morning,
Richie.
Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Springer Kay.
Hi, I'm here. Good morning.
Hi, Springer. Justin Lee.
Good morning.
Good morning. Matson Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning, Matson. Neil Thomas, Daniel Thomas.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi. Serving as counsel to the board is Deputy Corporation Counsel Diana Mellon Lacey.
Good morning.
With us today to help us with from the department, we have April Supernaut, staff to the board. And we have Keiko Mercado.
She's online.
She's online? Okay. Rob Leisure is helping us. And Kim Tanaka is the secretary. All right. We've had some agenda items that have been continued or withdrawn. I'll read them out. Norteca Properties, BOA 19-000237 is continued to our 6/18/21 meeting. A reminder, our meetings are every second Friday of the month, but June is a holiday, so we're pushing back a week to the 18th. The second item is Holiday Geiger. BOA is 20-000276. That has been withdrawn as of the 22nd of March. Matthias Kusch, Board of Appeals 20-000284 is continued till the June 18th meeting. Sharon Ney, BOA 21-000295, continued to the same June 18 meeting. At this time, are there any members of the public on any items on the agenda? Any statements to be made from the public? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close the public testimony. The first agenda item is old business. James Sturz, Board of Appeals 20-000256. The purpose of this is the adoption of the findings of fact, conclusions of law, the decision and the order for appeal of decision by Planning Director dated December 20th, 2019 regarding denial issued for a short-term vacation rental 19-361627 and the non-conforming use certificate 19-1462. The location of the matter 53-3947 Pratt Road, Kapa'au 96755. The TMK is 35-3-006:030. Let's see. In addition to the board members, we have our appellant pro se, Mr. James Sturz. Are you here, Mr. Sturz? Can we hear you?
I am here, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have the planning department. Our deputy corporation counsel today for the appellee is Malia Hall. Malia?
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, hi. Let's see, we've got 4 contributions on this matter. The Deputy Corp Counsel who served the board at that time, John Mukai, has drafted the findings of fact and conclusions of law. The appellant, pro se, Mr. James Sturz, provided comments proposing changes to the draft prepared by Mr. Mukai. Our current Deputy Corporation Counsel, Gene Campbell, then prepared a revised findings of fact and conclusions of law. The appellant submitted a written objection to the entire findings of fact conclusions of law as written. Have all the board members received all 4 of these communications and had a chance to review them? If you have not, raise your hand if you have not reviewed all 4 of these communications. Seeing none, I'm to assume then that all of you have received all 4. If you've all received the communications, please raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've read and received all the 4. All right, thanks. So we're prepared. Ask for a motion. That's time right now of the proposed action. So would somebody please make a motion to adopt?
This is Springer K. I move that we adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as provided.
Okay, this will be the second one, correct? Springer by Gene Campbell?
I'm, yes, asking that we approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law provided, the corrected version that was provided most recently.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
Neil Thomas seconds.
Thank you, Neil. So it's time for a discussion. Anybody have any comments? Yes, Justin.
I just wanted to, I guess I read Mr. Sturz's general objection. I think that was the most recent communication. And I do have concerns based on his communication, particularly his seventh point. First regarding the language with regards to finding of fact number 3, that the appellant's parcel was subdivided. I do think that Mr. Sturz raises a good point that it wasn't his parcel that was subdivided, it was the original pre-existing parcel that was subdivided. I think that's what was introduced at the hearing. And I think Mr. Sturz's other points is with regards to the citation of the Hawaii Common Code. I think Mr. Sturz is correct. It is section 25-4-16.1 subsection E, not section 24.
I'm sorry, Justin, just so that we're all clear, could you provide us the reference for your, Mr. Sturz has made a couple of submissions, so you're referring to his submission to the Planning Department on Thursday, April 8th?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and your first observation was he has a series of 8 issues, and what was the number of the first one?
The first one was number 1, where he addresses finding of fact number 3.
That has to do whether the statutory language is plain and unambiguous.
No. It starts with appellant's parcel was not subdivided.
Okay, that's the matter that we determined during our meeting. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So just to clarify the process here, is it acceptable that we can go through and select which of these we agree or disagree with and edit the findings of fact here in session? so that they can be adopted, or do we have to fully adopt or reject?
No, we can modify through discussion, and we can direct council to edit or modify the FOFCOL.
Great, thank you. Just so we're clear on the process, thanks. So I agree with Justin that we can perhaps adjust the wording there, make it clear that Lot 14B was subdivided to create the appellant's parcel.
This is Diana. I'm sorry. I understood there was some kind of intermittent breaking up, Justin, and I understood clearly what the citation error, but I wasn't clear what the wording was that you were concerned with because I couldn't hear well for number 3. Could you repeat?
Okay. So my concern is, I think, the same as Mr. Sturz'. So I'm looking at finding of fact number 3. I believe it's the second sentence that begins with appellant's parcel was subdivided. And I think Mr. Sturz' statement in his first point in his April 8th email accurately reflects the findings of our meeting, which is that it was not his parcel that was subdivided, but rather the pre-existing parcel 14B that was subdivided to create Mr. Sturz' parcel.
So the action of the subdivision on that date, Justin, created lots. Agreed?
Yes, that was my understanding of what the finding was last month.
Yes. So the appellant's parcel was created by subdivision on that date, correct?
Yes.
And that was our finding of fact. So is this semantics here? Are we dealing with a factual error?
I think it's more than semantics. I would say that if we were to adopt the proposed finding as written, it would be incorrect. That would be my position.
And the proposed language to clarify? You'd rely on attorney? Go on.
Well, I would agree with Mr. Sturz that we would phrase it to state that on July 19, 2013, Lot 14B was subdivided into several parcels. But I would defer to, I guess, input from our Deputy Corporation Counsel on the Planning Department for the, I guess, the correct language.
Yes, that's Richie Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Richie Henderson. I would suggest adding the language appellant's parcel was subdivided out of Lot 14B and approved by Planning Director on July 19th by subdivision number, blah, blah, blah. So it's just missing the words out of the parent lot.
Yes, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The main issue here, I mean, it is a matter of semantics. The lot was created through a subdivision. The subdivision was 14B that it was created from. The new lot that was created was 14B4. That is the word That is the important issue regarding this matter, is when was this lot created? 14B was created back in from a subdivision in 2008. It was a much larger property. The subdivision that created this parcel created several other parcels through this subdivision of 14B. But the issue is, when was this particular lot 14B4 created? And we've established that that date was July 13th or July 19th, 2013. Additionally, we also confirmed that the residence that was on that lot was created, I believe in more recently in 2017 or sometime during that time. There was a building permit for a new dwelling in 2015. But it says year built was 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darrell. It's been brought to my attention that the Hollywood squares have filled in, and I did not have the planning director and his deputy introduced onto the record. So could we please have introductions of the planning director, Mr. Zendo Kern?
Aloha, Zendo Kern here, planning director.
Thank you. And Jeff Darrow for deputy director?
Aloha, thank you.
All right. We're taking care of housekeeping. All right, so is your corp counsel have an opinion on this, Malia?
Hello. Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Henderson on the language. I think that that correctly reflects what took place.
Thank you. Mr. Sturz, do you have any issues with that?
I am not comfortable with agreeing to anything that is said. If you are talking about the creation of a document which will become part of the record, I need to see the document before I can comment on it.
Okay, well, this was your opportunity to comment on the language for the findings of fact and whether that's amenable to your initial issue or objection.
So to answer that, I think that the language that's being used, if correctly reflected in how the document is rewritten, is used, then that should be fine. However, that only talks about one half of my objection. The other gets down to the question of subdivided, created, existing. These are, to my mind, not plain terms. They are very ambiguous, and I want to make sure that each of them is used correctly, and I do not believe they are being used correctly now, based on my understanding of those three words.
Thank you. So we've had a recommendation for a language modification. Is there any further discussion?
Is that a motion? Did you make a motion to change it?
Justin, yes, Richie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on a point of order, we're taking each one of the appellant's issues totally and in its own venue, right? We're only talking to one, and then when we're settled with that, we'll move on to two, and so on and so forth, correct?
Well, I believe what we'll do is, if in the discussion, if any of these points are raised and agreed to or wish to be discussed or amended, then the members may do that, or any other party to this proceedings. But if something is not raised, we're not going to go through this as one by one. The case is not going to be, the matter's not going to be relitigated today. We have a decision. Yes, Richie.
So do we need to have a motion then to insert that language? out
Yes,
of
we do.
lot 14B? Well, I'll so move then that that language be inserted into the findings of fact number 3.
Thank you, Richie. And in fact, if any board member makes a proposal, let's do it in the form of a motion for purposes of efficiency. So do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Springer. Is there any discussion on this motion to amend the language of findings of fact item 1?
Item 3.
I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page again. Number 3.
I think that the statement that Richie proposed addresses the appellant's concern and is clearly stated, and I think we should move forward.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the question.
Okay, so you want a roll call vote?
Oh, Mr. Sturz, are you raising your hand? Okay.
I
see you,
am,
Mr.
yes.
Sturz.
I'm asking just with regard to this first one, if there's going to be any discussion about the use of the term create as opposed to exist or subdivided, and what these terms mean.
I don't think the word was included in the proposed language. It was subdivide out of.
Heather, I'm sorry, Springer, he's referring to the first sentence of that item 3. Appellant's property is on a parcel created after June 4th, 1976, which is the pivot point in our law. That was not discussed. What we're dealing with is a change of language for the second sentence in that matter. So if there's no further discussion on that second sentence, I'll call for the question. This will be a roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And Chair McCulley?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. 7 ayes.
7 ayes, the motion passes. All right. Board members, is there any other discussion on any of the other items in the findings of fact? Yes, Neil?
If a question or a motion regarding conclusions of law is in order, there is one that Mr. Sturz pointed out.
All right. Continue.
Paragraph 1, the statutory reference, section 24-4-16.1 sub E. Mr. Sturz points out that that language comes actually from section 25-4-16.1E. Could we ask Corporation Counsel if that's true, in which case, if it is, we can fix that now with a motion.
Mr. Thomas, that is correct. The Hawaii County Code section that is cited is 25-4-16.1E.
Thank you. And I'll move that the conclusions of law, paragraph 1, be amended as suggested by Corporation Counsel to read section 25, not 24, section 25-4-16.1 sub E.
Yes, Richie?
Mr. Thomas, why don't you change your motion to reflect the fact that any appearance of the wrongly cited statute be corrected throughout the document?
Richie, thank you, but first, that would be in discussion, and we would need a second prior to going into discussion. So
Yeah,
can you
this
provide
is
us a
before
second?
it's set. Okay. I'll second Mr. Thomas's motion.
Thank you, and let's let discussion begin. Richie, you don't need to repeat yourself. Does everybody understand what Richie proposed? That if we make a motion, let's have it be a conclusive motion if it can extend beyond the matter at hand. Are you comfortable with that, Neil?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
All right. Is the amendment clear for the minutes?
We'll get the transcript.
All right.
I'll second
Any
the
further
amended motion.
Thank you. Discussion?
I guess we're not talking about rollerblades here.
No, we're all too old for that stunt. All right, seeing no more discussion, hands raised, let's call for the question.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Kay?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Chair McCulley?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Okay, so we have two items that we've discussed and agreed to. Is there any further discussion on the objections raised by Mr. Sturz? Yes, Justin.
I'll make a motion to propose an additional finding of fact, perhaps addressing Mr. Sturz's concerns with regards to the interchange of create and subdivide. And that proposal would be to add a finding of fact stating that when a parcel is subdivided, new parcels thus subdivided are created.
So point of clarification, so this would be a new item, it would be item number 9 on the findings of fact?
But more logically, I think it would be better placed between 2 and 3, but it would be an additional finding of fact.
In terms of logical order. Council, are we plowing an old field? Has this matter been settled under the law?
Well, I think, I wasn't here when the hearing was held, but I thought this issue was addressed as part of the hearing. That when a lot is subdivided, a new parcel is created. I thought that was.
So, Justin, you believe that this would provide clarity to the findings of fact and would help the public better understand our decision?
Yes.
All right. And we have a second.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Sturz?
Just as a point of fact, there was no hearing for my case. There was a motion to dismiss. Certain topics were discussed and the Board of Appeals voted to dismiss. I have not received a proper hearing.
There was a hearing.
Okay, well, we conducted a hearing on the matter and we came to a conclusion. And this is the summation of that. The findings of fact and the conclusions of law will end the matter. You have other venues to carry forward, and perhaps you'll avail yourself of those. Any further discussion?
Aloha, Claire,
Yes?
Chair, I need clarification who the second is.
Oh, sorry, who is the second to Justin's motion for a new finding of fact? Did we have
Second.
one? Thank you. Springer has a second.
So now, discuss.
Any discussion on Justin's proposal to include a new finding of fact to clarify, create, and subdivide? Is that the matter?
I think Jeff has his hand raised.
Yes, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In reviewing our subdivision code, there are several sections within it that speak to a lot being created. In the context that it's referring to is talking about a pre-existing lot, but it does, just for reference, use the term creation or create a lot. So it's not just a ambiguous term that we use. It is a term that is identified within the subdivision code referring to lots that were created. That's just for your reference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Richie.
Can I ask Jeff Darrow about the subdivision process? And isn't it done by way of an ordinance to the county council that we have a subdivision created?
We don't need to go into this. We were sitting, finding the stuff.
Jeff, do you have a brief answer, a simple answer?
Sure. I mean, I'm not aware of that. The subdivision code itself was created through ordinances, but a subdivision has an application, an administrative application within our department that's submitted by an applicant. They are required to submit a certain number of maps. As part of that application, it's reviewed and sent out to different agencies for comments. It goes through a tentative approval. I mean, normally it does. There are other situations, but then, and the tentative approval gives conditions for the applicant to comply with to be able to receive final subdivision approval. Once final subdivision approval is granted, then our maps are changed. At that point, I'm not familiar with an ordinance process for that other than the subdivision code itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If not, I'll call for the question.
Okay, Mr. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Kay,
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Henderson,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas,
Aye.
Chair McCauley.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Thank you. So that's a third modification to the FOF COL. Any further discussion on the matter?
Hi, sorry, Chair, I would just like
Yes,
to
Leah.
recommend that since that last finding the fact was inserted between 2 and 3, that the remaining findings of fact be renumbered.
Yes, thank you, Council. That does not require a motion, does it? Diana?
No, because it's just following logical.
Yes, it's a housekeeping measure. Thank you, Malia. So as we're finishing I presume we're finishing our discussion, I'd like to remind you the board has 90 days to render a decision after our hearing.
But you've rendered the decision.
And we've rendered that decision. So this this can take some time, and this matter potentially could be continued. Is there anybody on the board who feels like there is more to discuss here beyond what we've done today? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law as amended today. Yes, Mr. Sturz?
I would like to ask the board to, at the very least, to consider what was point number 8 in my April 8th email, where under conclusions of law, paragraph 4, section 25-5-16.1E is inaccurately cited. It is quoted to say something that it does not say.
Chair, I would move to amend that item to section 25-4-4 of the Hawaii County Code, uses prohibited. That
Yeah, I think that's
24 versus 25.
25-4-4.
Springer, could you?
Yeah, if discussion's permitted, then that section 25-4-4 states that any use not listed among the permitted uses in a zoning district is permitted use within that district. Later on, the 25-5-16.1E does not allow the use of agricultural lands existing before. I'm sorry, I can't. It's not a permitted use in the code, and anything that is not a permitted use is expressly prohibited in the code.
Yeah. So by reference.
He's suggesting that. So if I understand you correctly, Springer, what you're saying, you're suggesting to change the code reference in number 4, conclusions of law, to be 25-4-4?
Yes, but I understand that would require some additional language change here to make it work. Perhaps it would be simpler to change it to Hawaii County Code section 25-4-16(1)E does not expressly permit STVR, non-conforming use certificates, etc.
Chair, this is Stacy Aguiar. Are we in discussion?
Yes.
Is it possible?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We have a motion on the floor with no second.
I see. I second the motion to, what am I seconding?
To amend the citation.
I second the motion to amend the citation and start discussion.
All right, thank you, Stacy. Please continue.
So is it easier or covers more bases if we leave the section stated 25-5- whatever is excluding that expressly prohibits STVR and recommend the addition of adding in conjunction with 25-4-4 uses prohibited. So in absence of clarity in the section that is stated, it does default to then going into having to read 25-4-4 that then covers everything that's not stated.
Yeah, the exclusionary clause. Malia, do you have any comments on this?
I would agree. I don't think we have an objection to the addition of that language, including both with if the board so chooses does not expressly permit, or as was also recommended, including, you know, a reference back to section 25-4-4 as well.
Thank you.
But I would ask for just a clarification on the full reading before before we're done.
Of course. Jeff Darrow, please.
Thank you. 25-4-4 applies to the zoning code. The reference that's being referenced, 25-4-16-1E, is referring to the state land use agricultural district. That's separate from the county code. The way I read it, it's very clear. It can say it two ways, but it says that a STVR non-conforming use may only be issued for single family dwellings on lots existing before June 4th, 1976. It doesn't say it. You can say it both ways, but it says it this way, which it also applies the other way. They could have worded it to say they are prohibited on lots after June 4th, 1976, but instead they used that it's only allowed on lots prior to June 4th, 1976. So I don't see an issue with this whole language, but again, 25-4-4 is applicable to the county code. This reference is to the state land use laws, which would be separate from that section. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Very helpful. Yes, Malia?
Chair, with that said, then I would recommend, since the objection was to a misquotation of the code, I would recommend just adding the code language as is, basically just putting E right into the conclusions of law.
That's your recommendation. So do we need to amend the motion on the floor? So let's see, Springer, did you make the original motion?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree to amending them to reflect the council's position?
I think that would be the most clear option we've come up with. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree.
Okay. Could someone sharper than me state the motion? The amended motion, Malia? Or is it a member that has to make that motion? The language.
I'd move to amend item 4 to state the language of County Code Section 25-4-16.1.
This is under our conclusions of law, number 4, item 4. So we have a change in statutory reference. Okay. Can I have a second?
Should be Stacy. This is Justin.
Stacy, can I have you? Okay. Can it be Justin? Yes, thank you, Justin. Any discussion on this? Springer, you're raising your elbow or your hand? Elbow. Yes, just Neil.
I'm not sure what we're adding. Are we adding additional language? We already cleaned up the misquotation of the statute or the ordinance from section 24 to section 25. That was the so-called rollerblade amendment. Are we adding existing language then?
My proposal, or rather Malia's proposal, really is to just replace that entirely with the language exactly as it's stated in the code, so there's no discrepancy.
I get it. In other words, what's there now is not a direct quotation of that provision.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Moved by Springer, seconded by Justin. If not, I'll call for the vote.
Ms. Kay, excuse me, Ms. Kay,
Aye.
Mr. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Henderson, sorry, I didn't hear Mr. Henderson. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Mr. Thomas,
Aye.
Chair McCulley,
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other discussion on the matter of the findings, effect, and conclusions of law on the matter of Mr. Sturz? Any other discussion?
Chair?
Yes. Yes.
Do we have a motion to adopt, or have we just been amending what's there?
We had a motion to.
We have a motion to adopt. That began this process. So we'll have a motion to adopt the amended findings of fact and conclusions of law at the end of this discussion. Yes, Mr. Sturz?
Given the quantity of changes, which are not insignificant, I think it would behoove us all to actually read the amended document before accepting it as a finding of fact. I certainly would like to.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Now, we have amended that, so I would like who made the motion?
Ms. Kay made the motion, Mr. Thomas seconded.
Okay, Ms. Kay, could you please amend your motion?
I move that we adopt the amended findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Seconder agrees.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adopt. Any discussion? Being mindful of Mr. Sturz, the appellant's concerns that he raised. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote.
Ms. Kay,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas,
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Henderson,
Aye.
Mr. Lee,
Aye.
Chair McCulley,
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Mr. Sturz. This has been very informative to go through this process. All right, we're going to move on to new business. We have an item that we've been referring over time, and this would be a discussion and a potential motion related to a rulemaking procedure in accordance with Rule 5 of the Board of Appeals, our Rules of Practice and Procedure. Do we have a motion that we are going to move on this?
This is Springer Kay. I'd like to move that the board initiate the process to review and revise the rules in accordance with the requirements of HRS 91-5 and Board of Appeals Rule 5-8.
Thank you, Springer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Let's have discussion. Mr. Sturz, as a member of the public, you're welcome to stay. In this rulemaking, we're going to cover a number of things to hopefully provide clarity to the process that we go through at the Board of Appeals. So you may find what we do on this matter now and in the future of interest. But at this time, Springer, do you have any proposed changes to begin the discussion?
Sure. Primarily, I wanted to call attention to clarifying language about due dates and deadlines to just make it a little easier for members of the public to follow and understand, and to make sure that we're in compliance with any county codes that have changed over the last, I think it's been 15 years since the rules have been revised.
So for that matter, it might be helpful if the department has an opportunity to review the changes that have occurred in that time period and perhaps give us a list of potential rules that we may consider. Would that be reasonable, April?
It would, and I might suggest that we could collect comments to the staff from the various board members on ideas that they have. And we can combine all of those comments and then put it in a form that the board could then review. And so that would be a suggested process if that works for the board and for Corporation Counsel. And then we could set a timeline, a deadline that works for the board to be able to provide that information or comments that they may have.
Thank you.
Yeah, that seems like a judicious way to proceed, because going through each item without anything to start from could take a very long time in a meeting.
Yeah, rulemaking, is analogous to lawmaking. It can get very messy. We don't want to get lost in the weeds here. We want to be as efficient as possible. So using staff, I know staff has a lot on their agendas, a lot on their plates already. So this is not going to be a 30 or 60-day process. Given that, we will see how what staff generates as far as conflicts or clarifications from their perspective. You as board members, over the time you've served, may know that there's something like notice that seems important to you, clarification. Mr. Sturz raises issues of definitions. We've run into problems with definitions ourselves. We would have liked to have had some definitions in the past that weren't available to us. So this will take some time. So being mindful of that, this could lead to a dual calendar, because we don't want this rulemaking to be constrained by matters that come before the board. We want every board matter to get a full hearing. And we don't want to turn this into 12 or 16-hour marathons. So I just want you to be mindful of what we're getting into.
I could.
Okay.
Go ahead, Springer.
May I could clarify this? I was particularly interested in the deadlines issue, but once my understanding from Ms. Mellon Lacey is that everything is on the table once we initiate rulemaking. So if it's an unrelated issue that it could cover anything within the board rules. I've gone ahead and put together a list of ideas for amendments to the deadline issue and provided that to staff to start that process.
And this is Diana, just by way of clarification, our rule 5.8 requires that that the compilations of the rules be reviewed and revised every 10 years. This set that I'm working off of says 2006. So we're way overdue, and if we're going to start to do anything, I think it's incumbent to do a review of it all, because we're not in compliance right now.
Yes, Mattson.
So what I'm hearing is that staff takes a crack at this, and a little unclear is, do we take a crack at the same time, or do we allow staff to take a crack, then understanding what staff has, then we start to take a crack? But again, it's a slow and methodical process, because I think that we might be coming up with things that are repetitive of staff, and are they going to kind of do a raking of the ground first, and then we kind of do that? How do you see this, Chair?
Well, I see staff as more of a plow. They're going to deal with things that they know from the inside, and they have the ability to compare documents in a much more efficient manner than we do, because they know where all the other documents are. When that's presented to us and we start delving into this, I think we're going to see things, and we'll be more efficient. We'll bring up things that are important to us, or what we think is important to our communities, and then we will add that. So we'll ice the cake. Another silly metaphor.
Oh.
Yes, April.
If I would add, if any of you, I mean, I would offer, if any of you have, like Springer had submitted some ideas, so if any of you have particular ideas, or if you find that certain parts of the rules are cumbersome or like that, then I would keep the door open for you to provide those initially. But otherwise, I agree with everything that Chair McCauley offered.
And I would also add, this is Diana, if I may, that members of the public also can submit any proposed changes to the rules, or even introductions of new rules to be considered.
So this will be noticed and agendized, and it'll be available for full public participation. Yes, Richie?
Does this need to be published in the paper, the notice for the general public's input on this?
I think so.
Yes, according to April.
Thank you.
I guess I would say, this is Diana, I would say, it will be, because we published the notice of in the minutes that this is, or in our agenda, that this is a topic. But once we have a document that we feel we'd like to adopt, then we will actually have to have public hearings on that, a public hearing on it.
These are the public.
Hmm?
These are the public hearings.
Yeah.
The board hearings are the public hearings.
Yes, but when we actually adopt something, then we would have to notice that this is what we're going to officially adopt.
Yes.
As opposed to just a discussion of.
Of course. Yes.
So that then it would be available or ready for publication, and that would be, so once we've hashed out this sausage and we have it all ready, it'll be available for review by the public prior to a special agenda item to adopt the rules.
It's my understanding that we'll treat this like a regular petition, that once we have a document to share with the board, that document will become publicly available, and we'll have a hearing on that for discussion, and that may be several hearings.
Yeah.
And so each version of the document that is presented to the board, just like a petitioner provides exhibits, the document will be made available online and will be published and noticed accordingly. So the process will be a complete public process.
Yeah.
Yes, Mattson.
2 comments. One, that I think that by the time I'm done with my term, we should be complete with this project right about that time. And I want to make sure that we use plenty of wild pig and wild goat in the sausage, as that might solve some other problems of the county.
Mattson, you're a new member, but you're getting up to speed very quickly. Any other comments from the board members on this matter? Springer, you began this with a motion, yeah? And we have a second. So is there any further discussion on the board beginning the rulemaking requirements under 5.8 of our these are the county rules?
These are the board's rules.
The board's rules.
Rule 5.
So just as a reference, Rule 5-8, the publication of rules, notices us that this is a requirement that we do this from time to time, once every 10 years. So we've begun this process. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Thank you, Sancho Panza. All right, call for the question.
Okay, Springer? Excuse me, Ms. Kay?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Ms. Aguiar?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair McCulley?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we need to approve the March 12th, 2021 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Moved as circulated that the minutes be accepted.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
I second.
Thank you, Stacy. Ms. Aguiar seconded. Any discussion? If not, call for the question.
It's all in favor.
Oh, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, please, so we can see.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Oh, no, Neil put his hand down. All right, we're good. Staff, do we have a status update on any outstanding BOA petitions?
I can just provide, we have the draft agenda for May that's going to be coming out soon. We have, it looks like 13, but it's really 12 because Huhonua has an intervening petition. But there are currently 12 cases that will be on the May agenda right now. I understand that there could be as many as 5 to settle relatively soon. An additional 3 may settle sometime after that. So we should not, as usual with these larger agendas, we should not have 12 once we get to the hearing itself. There's a similar scenario unfolding for the June agenda as well. And that's all I have.
Thanks. From Deputy Corp Counsel, can we get a status update regarding the appeals filed on our decisions?
There are no new ones. We have 4 current cases, and there's been no new action on any of those cases.
Okay. Let's see. Let's get on with announcements. Our next meeting date is May 14th, 2021. And as it happens, today, Friday, April 9th, is one Springer Kay's birthday. She's now able to go get a legal drink. So congratulations, Springer, on your birthday.
Thank you, very kind.
All right. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave? Mattson's raised his hand. He has a motion.
I so move to adjourn.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Springer. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Double shaka. All right. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Aloha.
All right. Aloha.